If you ask a Rhine-Main resident what the highlight of the region is, you will get several different answers. One will say that the region is the transportation hub of Germany, with the largest airport, the most important central train station, and heavily travelled highways and waterways. Someone else will refer to the value placed on literature. The art of printing was developed in Mainz. The greatest book fair in the world is in Frankfurt, and the most important prize for German literature is awarded in Darmstadt. The prize is named after Georg Büchner, who, like Goethe and the brothers Grimm, came from the Rhine-Main region. Still others will rave about the universities and think tanks, like the scientists and engineers following in the footsteps of Justus Liebig or Adam Opel. Really clever ones will refer to the courage of the Rhine-Main residents, because in addition to the native Riesling, they enjoy other things which take more getting used to, like wine made from sour apples or a soft cheese with raw onions in vinaigrette. Cheers. But who would ever say that it was the landscape that was something special? Because wherever many people work and live, the landscape has a hard time. But why not reference the beautiful and exciting nooks and crannies and connect and coordinate them? This is exactly what has happened in the last few years, and it produced astounding results. It is nothing less than visionary. The idea that a region takes collective responsibility for its landscape and networks and shapes it in a targeted fashion, with the motto, "A landscape that makes sense is a landscape for the senses." The gravel pit landscape on the edge of the village of Flörsheim-Weilbach is considered as a starting point for many regional landscape projects. The roots of the current regional park go back to the badly mistreated cratered landscape. It was the challenge to which the pilot project rose. Since then, the positive shaping of the landscape has become increasingly visible. In the last few years, more and more of those responsible have seen to it that the vision of the region is realized and accepted by the residents of the Rhine-Main region, and that the people from the region identify with it, awakening their urge to explore and seeing that the landscape across the street can be used for recreation. This is not always easy, but maybe one can accept a few scars on the landscape and weigh the advantages and disadvantages in order to live with it. It starts to get exciting when we read the landscape. The area between Wiesbaden, Hanau and Darmstadt was completely covered with tropical rainforest 47 million years ago. We know this from the exploration of the Messel pit. Later on, the Ice Ages held sway, always followed by warmer millennia. The River Main has marked the landscape since primeval times. It has often changed course, leaving behind gigantic quantities of sand and gravel. And it was the gravel that got the ball rolling for the pilot project of the Rhine-Main Regional Park. The gravel that was intensively extracted in Weilbach, beginning in the 1950s, found its way to the construction sites of the region. The Roman town in Schwalbach was one of the large-scale projects which mobilized thousands of trucks per week over the streets. In a few years, a landscape with moon craters and several flooded gravel pits developed. At best, they served as swimming holes, but they were also watery graves for junked cars. Then the council took control of the grounds and opened the first district waste dump. Other gravel pits were filled in with earth from construction sites. The idea of steering the development in a positive direction began to take hold among politicians and landscape planners. The Main-Taunus district, the town of Flörsheim and others founded the GRKW, the Society for the Recultivation of the Gravel Pit Landscape in Weilbach. The neighboring towns of Hattersheim and Hochheim joined later. The GRKW bought up the 150-hectare site and organized a design competition. The guiding idea was harmonizing an economic approach with a responsible treatment of nature. One part of the Weilbach Mooncrater Landscape was declared a nature sanctuary and fenced off. A herd of goats and another one of wild donkeys ensured that the site kept its character and was not overgrown. Within a few years, flora and fauna, including some rare species, established a foothold here. Another part of the gravel pits was recultivated. A local recreation area and an educational nature reserve were created. Supervision was provided by the Nature Protection Centre, established in 1991. With the financial support and collaboration of the Main-Taunus district, they promote environmental teaching for the region. Work with children and youth becomes a focus. And in the third part of the Weilbach gravel pit, gravel continued to be excavated. The proceeds from the gravel financed the recultivation of the pits, with the Main-Taunus district providing substantial support to carry out the many environmental projects. The opening of the Regionalpark portal becomes a milestone. Here the planners have created a centre for sightseers, as well as those interested in nature and culture. Other projects will follow. The planning in the brand new Regionalpark portal is already in full swing. Taking stock, we've got a lot to be proud of. It's a success story for the entire Rhine-Main region. 20 years ago, the city of Frankfurt made a provision for a green belt around the metropolis. Instead of allowing nature to break off into little islands, it foresaw maintaining continuity for people, animals, and plants. The regional park circles around the green belt, with the main route of the cycle path extending almost 200 kilometers. It begins north of Bad Vilbel, running east of Frankfurt along the old trade route called the Hohe Straße, where some works of art line the way. It continues along the Main River at Hanau and Steinheim to Offenbach. The weather park there is another cornerstone of the route. It then proceeds through the districts of Offenbach and Groß-Gerau into the nature reserve at Mörfelden-Walldorf. The western leg of the round trip goes through the Hessian Ried, running along the Rhine to the mouth of the Main River in Ginsheim-Gustavsburg. There, the route heads east. The towns of Hochheim, Flörsheim and Hattersheim began to realize the regional park idea with the pilot project in 1995. Highlights include the Adventure Park, the Flörsheim Watchtower and the Rosarium. From there, the route runs through the Taunus and from Bad Homburg back to Frankfurt. The regional park network will become more closely meshed, increasing the opportunities for discovery. The portal will become a starting point for many other projects, like the watchtower of the regional park at the Weilbach gravel pits.
Dieser Turm ist Aussichtspunkt und gleichzeitig in seiner wirklich unverwechselbaren Einmaligkeit auch eine weithin sichtbare Landmarke.
A trademark has emerged in just a few years. It stands for a landscape that has nothing to fear from its scars in the earth. It is the landscape we have, and it's time to make the most of it. Like the Weilbach gravel pits, from a Mooncrater landscape and illegal waste dumps, a new landscape is emerging. A landscape well worth a second glance.